Hi, and welcome to another FJchat. Today I'm sitting with Peter Townsend, who is the Chief Executive of the Christchurch Canterbury Chamber of Commerce. In fact, as of yesterday, the departing Chief Executive of the Canterbury Chamber of Commerce. So welcome to FJchat. What I wanted to talk about, Peter, and you've kind of changed the agenda on me because you've now resigned your position, is your advocacy of Christchurch in particular, and your view, considering the years, and I think it's 21,
Yep.
That you've been leading the chamber, of where Christchurch is at on the journey post-earthquake towards the new city.
Yeah, sure.
What's your view of where you are in the journey at the moment?
Yeah. First of all, I'm here until November the 30th, so I'm not moribund yet. There's plenty of fight in the old dog until November the 30th, and then I'll go off and do some other stuff, particularly in a governance area. But look, where Christchurch has got to is really quite extraordinary. The first thing to say about Christchurch is that everyone thought we'd be on our knees for years. Everyone thought that the economic fabric of the community would collapse, that because it was enormous devastation. I mean, 80% of our CBD was devastated, 1,100 commercial buildings in the CBD, unprecedented. But we lost almost no businesses, and there were really good reasons for that, amongst them being the earthquake support subsidy, which the government came to the party with, and
We were a recipient of that, so I can say thank you very much to the government.
You were one of thousands, and the government tipped about over $250 million in, and I think has learned a new way of handling disasters, and that was a first. And the new way is you've got to keep cash flow going through companies, and I think that's clearly understood now. So that sort of set us up for a much better recovery than we would otherwise have, because most of the businesses, even though 6,000 had to cut and run out of the central city, most of them survived. Normal churn rate for business in Christchurch, and Auckland, and anywhere else you want to go in New Zealand is about 11.4%. Churn rate post-earthquake, 11.6%.
Oh, that's extraordinary. I mean, I remember post-earthquake, the business being done in cafes was unbelievable. Everyone had a laptop, Wi-Fi, away you go.
Everyone worked from wherever they could. I mean, we worked for 6 months out of my broken home, which has now been demolished, but for 6 months the 32 of us turned up to work, and my bedroom became my office. 7 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night.
In fact,
I often say that my EA and I have spent longer in a bedroom than any other chief executive in the history of New Zealand.
And look what you've achieved.
Yeah.
Do you think that in learning some of those things, A, there's new ways of doing business, B, it's not about the history and the old, but it is about being innovative and new, that's actually fundamentally changed Christchurch a bit?
Absolutely. We've changed in a lot of ways. I mean, we're a really robust economy now. We're the most robust economy in New Zealand. Part of that is because we're spending $83 million a week still rebuilding our city, $83 million a week. And that's funded primarily by insurance money, $33 billion worth of insurance. Nowhere in the history of the world has $33 billion worth of insurance money been applied to a population of 360,000 people to rebuild a city. So, but underneath that, we've got a really good, robust economy. And coming back to your question, the reasons for that, that we did what we had to do. We had to become innovative. We had to become flexible. People had to go and attend to their personal issues, their houses, their families. We had to become empowering, because we couldn't be autocratic in terms of running our companies anymore. We had to trust people with the outcomes. We had to become collaborative. Everything that's being rebuilt in this city is being built to open plan, including this office. We all had our own offices prior to the earthquake. We learned to work together. So the way I like to describe that, and by the way, we've become very energy efficient because of all the new buildings and the new materials, and we've become very safe. I mean, Christchurch has had a seismic past, and we will have a seismic future for sure, but we're building to our seismic future. So the way I like to describe that is that we've leapfrogged over a whole lot of developing trends, like flexibility in the workplace, like empowerment, like open planning. And we've done that because we had to, but we've actually landed in a really good place. And the rest of New Zealand is going to take some time to catch up to us, because we've got a new city, we've got a safe city, we've got an energy efficient city, and we've got a city where the whole workforce dynamic has changed. And by the way, good old monocultural, myopic, inward-looking conservative Christchurch has become aggressive and multicultural.
Yeah, well, look, I wasn't going to mention it, but now that you have, that's one of the vibrancies that I like about the new Christchurch, I have to say. I'm here every month, and my wife and I travel up and down, and one of the things that we comment on is the fact that sometimes we see things in Christchurch, because it's like watching a series of still photos in a sequence. We come down each month and think, oh my Lord, look what's changed. But sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it.
Yep.
And Christchurch people that we engage with go, oh really? And we go, yeah, it is vibrant, it is moving.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I do see it. I've got so many tentacles in this community that I see a lot of what's going on. But my little piece of jargon that I throw into the pot in 2017 is that 2017 will be the year that the physical manifestation of the rebuild of our central city will overwhelm the negative sentiment about a lack of progress.
Yeah.
So this year, 2017, is the tipping point. And I see more and more people now taking much, much greater interest in what the city's going to look like in the future and what their part in that is. And I think we will end up with Christchurch being a serious city of choice.
Yeah, it's interesting you comment about that in terms of it's nice to hear the Irish accents, it's nice to hear the vibrancy in the community, and vibrancy in its total sense, but it's also good to see the investment. I mean, a lot of investment for those first years was all underground, and that investment is now popping out and sprouting into some really interesting spaces. We were just walking around the south base and southern frame, and the pathways and the laneways, and that is a fabulous addition.
Well, you see what's happened. I mean, initially we went through this sort of cleaning things up, and then we went into rebuilding, and that rebuild was fundamentally, well, before that was the horizontal infrastructure, the pipes and cables, and then the rebuild. That rebuild will be commercial rebuild will be about 75% through by the end of this calendar year, fundamentally funded by insurance payouts. So a lot of people who own buildings in the central city lost their buildings, got a cash settlement from the insurance company, and they've reinvested that, plus a bit more, back into the central city. And that's what's mainly driven the rebuild. It's mainly been insurance proceeds. What's happening now is that the rest of the world is starting to see what a good outcome is coming out of the rebuild at Christchurch, and starting to invest, foreign investors coming to the city, and starting to invest in built buildings with long-term solid tenancies, because they see what an excellent proposition that is. And you know the other thing that's happening? I'm getting more and more people from elsewhere in New Zealand, and particularly from Auckland, who have done cold-blooded analytical assessments about which city is the best city for them, for the greatest opportunities, commercial and lifestyle opportunities, for the next 10 to 20 years. Christchurch comes out on top. So, you know, we don't want everyone to come in.
No. Is that because of that's housing, education, putting the costs of those?
It's all of those things, but it's I mean, housing, relatively cheap, and lots of it. Office space, we now have a surplus of office space, and that's sort of going to bounce through, but that's great for the tenants. Hospitality, we've got more restaurants in the central city than we had before the earthquake, and there's some wonderful offerings going in Christchurch, but it runs much deeper than that. We've got good infrastructure, we've got a fantastic airport, we've got a port that didn't miss a day, we've got proximity to the most beautiful scenery in the world. Top of that, we've got excellent education system. I mean, I've got 9-10 secondary schools in this city that I would gladly send any of my kids to. They're fantastic. Good tertiary education. Good science support here in terms of the CRIs out of Lincoln and the Lincoln Hub and so on. But we've also got really good health system. And so, I mean, the Canterbury health system, although we all have to moan about health, is regarded internationally as one of the top 6 health systems in the world. Totally under the horizon. But if you go to the UK and you tell them you're part of the UK health system, and I'm on the board of Pexus Health, so I'm looking after primary care in the communities, I know this, you're regarded as a god because you come from the Canterbury health system where we do things right. So all of those things, you put them together and you get a really, really compelling proposition in terms of lifestyle, and in terms of economic opportunity, and in terms of safety and everything else that goes on.
Do you think, I mean, you are a passionate advocate for Christchurch. I think Jerry Brownlee pretty much summed it up by saying good one-eyed Cantabrian and passionate, and it needs that, and that energy to drive through has been, I would have thought, taken quite a personal toll on you, because that's a lot of energy to push up against quite a big wall for a while.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm still full of energy. I'm one of these people that want to go through life and do whatever I can, at the end of it say, wow, what a ride. Not, was that it? Which so many of us will do, because we're not tapping into all of these opportunities. And I guess the other thing is that I said to my team, 32 people working here at the Chamber of Commerce, I said to them immediately after the February earthquake, which is the earthquake that killed people and the earthquake that was really devastating in our city, I said, you're going to hate this. This is a terrible thing that's happened to our city. You know, your houses have been destroyed, your family's been disrupted, a long legacy of that. But make the most of every moment of it, because this is a unique opportunity. It will never come again. So most of them did, and I tried to. You make the most of this sort of situation. Where else in the world are you going to get the opportunity to be a pivotal part in rebuilding a city of 360,000 people? It's a fantastic opportunity. So I get energised by that. People have often accused me of being hopelessly optimistic. And right from the start, and my initial response to that, well, what's the other bloody choice?
Yeah.
You know, you want me to be pessimistic? But the reality is that this is a city of opportunity. And optimism and opportunity go hand in hand. And it really is up to us as the people of Christchurch to take advantage of that opportunity with both hands, to recognise the interdependency of Christchurch with our region, because we have gold in our region called water and land and human capital and technology. We are in a sweet spot in the city and in this region for the next 5 to 10, maybe 15 years, and I honestly can't see that that's going to be derailed by anything. And what we're seeing a lot of is people coming in from offshore now, who are looking for a safe bolt hole, who are looking for somewhere stable to bring up their families, who are looking for a good quality of life, who are looking for the sort of balance that we've got on offer. They want to remain highly connected, which we can also offer them. And that's starting to happen in increasing volumes as we speak.
It's interesting you point out about the tipping point, because that would be our observation. You know, we've been coming here every month for 4 years, and the last 9 months has been dramatic. I can't recall that rate of change, and every time it's getting faster and faster as things pop out and get finished and come through. So we see it sometimes. How do we change the Canterbury psyche to make sure that Christchurch people see it?
Yeah.
That's my challenge, I guess.
And you have to put that into perspective too. I mean, you have to remember, and we forget these things, we have to remember that for 2 years our central city was cordoned off. You couldn't go into our central city. 2 years we had 53 earthquakes over 5 on the Richter scale. We had 11,000 smaller aftershocks. We then spent a year, after we took the cordon away, we spent a year of putting the horizontal infrastructure in. So it's only been 3 years that we've been rebuilding the central city. Now, if you look at the progress that has been made in 3 years, it's phenomenal. And I like to think that people will realise a couple of things. First of all, that the time frames that were originally projected about the rebuild of the city were hopelessly optimistic. And secondly, that we're going to have an outcome in the city that beats everybody's expectations. It's going to take a little time. We've got a way to go, but it will be a beautiful city with all of the attributes of a well-knit together community.
I kind of forgive them the optimism of the original time frame, because frankly, if you'd said to people, look guys, it's going to be 10 years,
you had to be
and
optimistic.
then just the city would have decentralized.
It wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have
worked. And that's perfectly understandable. But we need to recognise that with hindsight.
Yeah, and move to the next stage.
Yeah.
So that vibrancy, what you're saying is that's been recognised offshore, because sometimes I think locally, and we've got to convince Cantabrians, and then we've got to convince New Zealanders, etc. But you've actually stepped over that, and you're saying the international market is saying, "Oh, this is interesting. This is let's chase."
Let me give you an example. I'm on the board of Pegasus Health. We look after the 24-hour surgery. The 24-hour surgery pumps 85,000 patients through it a year. It's a massive undertaking. We've always struggled to get medical officers. Most of them come from offshore. They bring their young families with them, or they come here on a temporary basis, and we struggle to get them engaged into Christchurch. Now we've got a waiting list. Why? Probably because of Brexit, probably because of Trump, probably because of lone wolf tourism, mainly because we've got an offering here that they really want to be part of. And it's just as simple as that. And if I have one message for anyone in Christchurch, it is tell people the story of this city and its way forward, and you will have people wanting to come here coming out of your ears, because what is on offer here is fantastic.
So, importantly for you, 21 years of slog and success. What's up for Peter Townsend at the end of the year, in November?
November 30th. Look, I fully intend to carry on with my external governance roles. I've got 5, 6 external directorships, some of them big. I want to continue with those, potentially pick up another one. But most importantly, I want to be my own boss. I mean, for 45 years I've been working. I've been accountable to an employer for 45 years without a break. And now it's time to be accountable to myself. It's time for me to stay in Christchurch until I get sick of it, to go to Wanaka till I get sick of it, to come back to Christchurch till I get sick of it, to go to Noosa till I get sick of it. That's the stage I've reached in my life, while keeping up my directorships, which gives me much more flexibility than a 60-hour week job.
Oh, well, I'm sure in the coming days, weeks and months there's going to be lots of plaudits, etc. But from a small business owner who has branches in Auckland and Christchurch, let me thank you for the work and advocacy that you've done, because it's made a huge difference to this process, and congratulations to you.
I appreciate that. It's not me, it's my team, and it's the ultimate decisions are the businesses like yours who decided to hang in here and make it work, and they did.
Ah, superb. Hey, lovely to see you.
Good. Thanks very much. Okay.